posting on the media Facebook page in a town like Alpena, we know incivility is running rampant, and it seems to be no check on it nowhere. However, in the midst of all the rancor, I did find one bit of good news last week in the Alpena News. It was my horoscope for Thursday. I was working on today's sermon about finding common ground when I read this. There's nothing quite like the feeling of people banding together for a common cause. The sense of belonging can't be beat. It doesn't take away the risk, but there's comfort in knowing the risk is shared. Unquote. So if you're a Libra like me, there's hope. Jesus made the point long ago that hate begins in the heart long before it moves to our mouth. And it's in our heart and it's in our mouth before it finally moves to our muscles. Thankfully, our church tradition follows Jesus' value system and names that behavior sin and agrees it's fundamentally damnable. It's divisive, it's disrespectful, it's wrong. And Jesus goes on to suggest, and I quote, if you're offering your gift at the altar, that is, you come to church to worship or to Bible study, and there you remember your brother has something against you, that long lingering grudge that you and your friends have nursed, leave your gift there before the altar, says Jesus, and go. First be reconciled to your brother, to your sister, to your neighbor, your friend, your competitor, your adversary. Be reconciled and then come back and offer your gift, unquote. In other words, make things right with your neighbor before pretending that things are all right with you and God. Or as a final example, Jesus recommends, let's say you're out on the street and an old adversary, an enemy of yours, accosts you. Make friends quickly with your accuser, says Jesus, while you are going with him to court, lest you be handed over to the judge, and from the judge to the bailiff. Sorry, Jim, to the guard. And you will be put into prison. Well, Jesus suggests that you should make the first move. You, especially if you're the one in the wrong, make that move and don't waste a minute. Make things right with that other person. After all, if you know their track record, you know you're not only going to end up in court, you'll probably end up in jail, and you won't get out of that with the legal system without paying all kinds of fines and court costs. It's better not even to go there. Reconcile with people who hold you in contempt. Don't nurse the grudge. To reconcile means first we have to admit that we have a problem. Jesus was ahead of his time in recommending that people make settlements of their grievances out of court. In today's litigious society, where a lot of money is made by lawyers, people are quick to sue. They're quick to demand recompense. They want compensation. They demand justice, and justice usually means wanting to get some payback, wanting some retaliation, wanting to get some financial settlement, plea deal. So how does one find common ground in so polarized an environment as ours today? How do parties reconcile their differences in an adversarial system of lawsuits and countersuits? Whether it's about water rates in Alpena County, or collusion to fix an election, or denial of civil rights to a targeted minority group, it seems to me our fragmented, partisan-driven advocates of one position or the other push their special interest agenda on the others, and they speak right past one another in a shouting match or using argumentation that lacks basic civility. It feels like they just want to know not the facts, they don't want to know the truth, they just want to know, are you for us or are you against us? Are you with us or not? Are you one of us or are you one of them? It is so tedious, if not infuriating, and it gets us nowhere. As a church that values diversity of thought, clarity and civility in discussions, and polite decorum if the topic at hand is divisive, I'm concerned that we too often take the shortcut of simply avoiding raising the real issues. It's not so much that we agree to disagree without being disagreeable, but we agree rather don't raise the question in the first place. No politics, no social issues, no criticism. I want us to consider the price we pay for maintaining surface harmony among our members when there are, in fact, deep fundamental disagreements between us, and that price may be high. For example, we may miss out on forging ties of deeper, more fundamental community, which comes about by working through disagreements, working through antagonisms, rather than by ignoring them. As I put it in the song, we're a C-O-M-M unity. I put unity back in community. Those prophets, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, all warned about false peace where the civic leaders would proclaim all is well, when in fact it was not. I can't wait to see what the State of the Union address is going to say about how well everything is going when it's not. Woe to those who say peace, peace when there is no peace, or who remind us there is no peace without justice. We might also miss out on making a difference as a church to the people around us. See, these tough issues that polarize us in society arouse deep feelings, controversy, conflict, precisely because they deeply matter to many people. Issues such as abortion, the one that caused all the havoc last week, and the session was held yesterday at the Catholic Church pro-life anti-abortion event. Those issues, yeah. But also including homosexuals as fully respected human beings in the middle of our lives. Or pointing out political shenanigans in high places. I want to do that all the time, but people think I'm being partisan on who I'm picking on. Well, I can pick on both sides. Or naming economic immorality for what it is and how it runs rampant in our consumer-based market economy. Or addressing corruption in the press, in business, in government. Confronting attitudes regarding how to secure our southern border versus the humanitarian concerns for thousands of refugee families. And on and on. These issues arouse strong feelings because they're issues that matter. And the only way to avoid conflict is never deal with anything that really matters to the human condition and to our body politic. Conflict is a given in our individual lives and in our life as a church in northern Michigan. We are distinctly different from very many, but nobody would know that outside these four Besser block walls. We cannot wish away strong differences and real disagreements. And if we fail to learn how to deal with our differences in ways that are not disagreeable, we will risk withering on the vine, and we will not be of much use to our community. However, I believe if we find ways where we can raise tough issues and thereby model healthy ways of dealing with diversity of opinion, we may discover we have new interest in what our church is doing. We're going to look forward to see how this thing turns out. Right? We're going to see new relevance in its current affairs. We'll see the kind of reputation we will have in the community. We actually may find for ourselves a more lively faith because we're engaging things that need to be addressed. I believe creativity can be kindled when different ideas bump up against each other as we search for solutions to real public problems, trusting God's desire for the flourishing of life as articulated and experienced through Jesus' life guides us into the light. I think the issue is not that we have differing viewpoints in church. I mean, that's a good thing. I'd rather be in a church where there are multiple opinions and perspectives than be one where everybody has to be lockstep the same. But what we see all around us is how tough issues divide people into competing camps, partisans who throw stones at each other instead of listening to one another. And they don't treat their opponent fairly. They don't act respectfully. They don't seem to have any interest in looking together for common ground. They are adversaries above all else. It's what defines them. It's almost like a team sport competition, right? I'm Go Blue, University of Michigan, come hell or high water. Well, I'm Spartan, green and white, fight, 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 MSU. Well, so what? I'm Ohio State, so there. In my opinion, in my experience as a minister for 35 years, the basic communication skill that is lacking and that could help us find common ground in situations of disagreement is that in responding to others, we should state what we agree with before we explain where we disagree. Don't call them fools, liars, wrong team. Listen first, and then state the points of agreement. It's a fun game, whoever wins. Or respect. You've got some good players on your side. Before you get into the other side where you disagree. And can we be honest? Usually we listen not to discover any points of agreement, common ground, but to find the flaw in their argument. We're quicker to say, oh, that's where you're wrong, than to say, well, this much I agree with. The search for common ground, to reconcile with your adversary, your accuser, means entering into discussion with the hope of finding common ground with those who are on the other side of the issue. It means that we must be as interested in what binds us together as in what is separating us. It means we must be as eager to explore our mutual agreements as we are to express our places of passionate disagreement. And there's not a lot of public role models in today's bitterly polarized, team-like, tribe-like, partisan politics that will encourage us. But that doesn't eliminate us as a church to do it ourselves, even if nobody else around us is doing it. It does not eliminate Jesus Christ as our guide in such matters. And in the Gospels, we see he was always quick to raise the issues. And he had a variety of ways of preaching and teaching and provoking a response over issues that really mattered. And some succeeded and some didn't. And Jesus died in that effort. But his Spirit remains with us through the wooden church and the brick church and the block church to the church of today. The Spirit is still with us to continue that wrestling match with reality.